Welcome to Superhero Chicken Fest, Episode 6, the podcast where a few writers fanboy over superheroes and don't actually do a whole lot of writing. Today's episode is spoiler light as we're talking about the future of the MCU, but there are probably a few implicit spoilers on the MCU films, so proceed at your own risk. We're sponsored today by DC Comics, underrepresented on this podcast since 2017. Superhero
Chicken
Fest!
Yeah.
There we go.
That was something.
And now you can see how it happens. This is going to be...
Welcome everybody to Superhero Chicken Fest, episode 6, and the first one that we have video for, because we are putting it on YouTube now. We have our own YouTube channel. So if you're listening to this podcast on one of our various audio sources or on the website, you can go look for Superhero Chicken Fest on YouTube, and you can watch our mouths move while we do it.
I think we should trade out each one of us poorly animating each podcast.
We have Ganon though.
Oh, that's worth it. Oh, he's so good.
He's the best.
He's so
Doggy
sweet.
on.
Oh.
If you're watching on YouTube, you can also check out the
Leave
podcast
comments.
on. You can. Well, first off,
Please
you can leave
comment.
comments on the episode and give suggestions for future topics a little bit more easily. And if you need a way to listen to it offline or just not with YouTube running, we also have it available on our website or on iTunes and Spotify. So be sure to check those out. There are links.
This does cut out one of my favorite gags of all time, which is the Brian Regan thing for his YouTube album, where it was like, and now I'm going to do a backflip. Whoa! And now I'm going to do 2 backflips. Whoa! It's great. I loved it.
That was pretty great.
I did this once, actually,
Yes.
when I was on one of our old podcasts, when you were at Newgrounds
For
Tank Day or whatever, and I was just narrating, so I just had some fun with it.
Yeah, that was when you were watching the live stream or whatever,
Right,
and we're
yeah.
just narrating what happened.
McCurdy's been suspiciously not a problem.
I put him up in the
Okay.
in the laundry room so that he doesn't crawl over the cords. Anyway, this week's episode is going to be a little bit more casual and relaxed than the other ones. Basically, what we're going to be doing is
As opposed to the academic tones of our previous podcast.
the other ones have been very scholarly and proper. I don't know what you're talking about. This one is going to be us sort of speculating on where we want the Marvel Cinematic Universe to go now that Endgame has happened. It's been a decent amount of time after Endgame now, so I
No
feel
spoiler, but now that all the major spoilers are memes, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
We'll still mark it, I guess, but which I want to just point out. So right now at this exact moment, the Phase 3 is not complete.
Right. Yeah. We still have one more.
Far From Home is actually the end of the Infinity Saga.
Oh. Okay.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
There's another one?
the Spider-Man movie is actually the last movie before this phase is done.
Yeah.
All right.
And then everything changes.
Right. And so we're going to try to kind of like guess at what it is that we would want them to do from a variety of different perspectives. Me and Ian obviously are just like huge Marvel fanboys. Yeah. And so what I was thinking is we can throw out ridiculous ideas and then our executive producers, Rachel and Allison at the big studio with all the money can tell us whether or not it's actually good.
I know you don't get the monopoly on dumb ideas.
No,
I
please.
have many.
Everyone's a bit dumb. This is like
I would like
a
to
strict
first
structure.
like before we talk about things we want, I just want to talk about what is likely, and this is super exciting to me.
Okay.
This is so. I had this thought. This is partially exciting because I got immediately validated, which is nice. So the reality is after Far From Home, the future of the MCU is Disney Plus. It's their streaming service that debuts in November.
That's a good point. I forgot about that
And
already.
it's like everything goes through that. Like we know that there's the Winter Soldier and Falcon
right
series and the Scarlet Witch and Vision series that are both being promised.
Oh yeah.
And so what I thought, so the deal is, we had something happen a few years ago, right? Stranger Things. Stranger Things changed streaming. It introduced the idea. Well, it popularized, did not introduce, but it definitely like solidified and like cast in bronze the idea of the 8-hour movie.
Right.
Right. We've had miniseries for years, but even still, you have like a miniseries event. You'd watch it for like 4 nights in a row or something. People have tried to do this before. This famously led to the downfall of Arrested Development Season 4.
Right.
Which kind of like died on the swords of
Right.
trying to figure out how to make like binge streaming work.
Arrested Development had to sacrifice itself for Stranger Things and Daredevil to come along.
But so like, and Stranger Things wasn't the first one, but it was like one of the biggest marquee, like just sit down and binge this all in a day, and it's like an 8-hour movie thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, that's interesting because we've never had a platform that could really do that before. Now, Kevin Feige is who's the executive producer behind the MCU, right? Does he's in charge of everything. Did you see his AMA, by the way?
I don't think I ever actually read it.
It wasn't worth it. It wasn't.
No.
The only thing that came out
I figured he wasn't going to like give out actual interesting information.
He was just like it was. I mean, it was fine. It was interesting, and it was great to see him like give feedback. The two things that were like that really came out of it is they're open to doing the Mandarin properly, who's the villain from Iron Man 3.
But they already did him.
No, he was fake. Remember?
Right.
But there's a real Mandarin who's a real, and they're open to doing the real guy again later, which everybody's excited about. Like, okay,
named that.
He's Chinese. In case you were expecting like a small citrus fruit, it's
I was thinking about ducks.
But and the other thing was somebody said like, what's the one scene you always wanted to see in the MCU? And he said pretty much from the beginning it was all leading up to the on your left moment in Endgame, which I think was worthwhile because that is such a good moment.
I actually don't remember that.
That's the portals opening up.
Oh, okay.
Wait,
Yeah, anyway.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Anyways, his AMA was kind of dumb, but anyway, that's a sidetrack. The thing is, Kevin Feige is going to be the first person to own a streaming service that allows him to craft narratives from scratch with the idea of the 8-hour movie in mind.
Yeah.
So he gets to change storytelling.
Yeah.
Like for the next phase of human narrative, like it was a big deal when people like in the what is it, like 1800s, people all like started saying that the novel is finally like is an art form and not just for silly crappy stories.
Yeah.
And, like it's a real piece of art.
That's a good comparison.
And so now we get a whole new medium essentially. We get to have TV shows that act like books in terms of their length and character
That's
development.
true.
And
Which
so
is cool, because that was always like there was definitely a period of time where I started being like I just like TV shows more because I get to spend longer with the characters. Like movies work if they're written to be packaged up kind of in this short way, but you can't really expand on them very much unless until Marvel started just doing it anyway because they had all the money in the world.
And so
Yeah, the Lord of the Rings extended editions are also amazing.
right, I think
Yeah.
so. The Lord of the Rings gets actually in my heart, the Lord of the Rings gets credit for the entire nerd revolution because it's just something that Peter Jackson always wanted to make. It wasn't necessarily like on the heels of anything else, and it shouldn't have worked. And against all odds, it did. And then suddenly, sword and sandals movies.
That's a whole other podcast.
And I'd love to do that one too. Like swords and sorcery, all that comes back because everybody's trying to cash in on, Lord of the Rings. That leads to Game of Thrones. Actually, I think Game of Thrones also has a lot of credit in the 8-hour movie.
Yeah, it does.
That's
because
true.
I was thinking about this earlier. I remember one of the first people I heard saying they were fine making the jump to TV, like bringing up what you were talking about, was Kiefer Sutherland, who's traditionally a movie actor.
Well, because TV used to be seen as the lower thing. You didn't want
and
TV roles
Kiefer
as much as...
jumped on the 24 train, right?
Oh, yeah.
And think about it, every season of that show was 24 episodes. That's gigantic. It's like that's in the...
Well, each episode represents an hour. Is that true?
Yeah.
So the idea is like a real-time show.
It was supposed to represent 24 hours of the day.
Oh.
So like the
Interesting.
It's a
episodes were,
crazy
like,
show.
11 to noon.
It's
noon to
crazy.
1 o'clock.
I didn't
And
know
they
that. I never
still
watched
didn't
it.
have time to realistically portray LA traffic, which is.
I mean,
But-
who wants to actually see that portrayed realistically?
Right.
To be fair,
And so, but then Game of Thrones like debuted early on with saying 10 episodes a season, right? That's it. And that's gigantic to cut these huge books into 10 pieces, and you can binge a Game of Thrones season in a day.
Yeah.
Difficult, but that's so they weren't all released at once, so you couldn't 8-hour movie it from the start. But
Right.
I think it's popularizing essentially this is long enough format.
Right.
And so, but yeah, and then immediately after I had this thought, like the next day I saw an article by Kevin Feige saying that he's going to change storytelling forever. I'm like, hell yeah, you are.
oh, he actually said that he was going to.
Well, I mean, I thought it first and then he said it, so.
So it was Ian's idea.
Just like Avatar, but we'll get to that later.
I mean, there are all these serialized classic novels that we don't realize were released in chunks. I
Right,
think
that's
Crime
true.
and Punishment was like this.
Wait, really?
A Tale of Two Cities. A bunch of these were
The
like
Portrait of
paid
Dorian Gray?
because they got paid per chapter. So in these
didn't know that.
Sherlock Holmes?
it would be released in installments. Yeah, Sherlock Holmes.
Huh.
Sherlock Holmes is more evident, right? Because it reads more like a collection of short
Right.
stories. If I
That
remember,
makes sense.
I haven't actually read much Sherlock Holmes, but
There's a lot of serialized. It's interesting because, or like Moby Dick was serialized, I believe.
So that's why they're so long, because they just put out
They're
like
so
all these
long,
Right.
different-
and
They
there's the, and
put
why
out in
the-
chunks.
The story meanders.
Yeah.
and they let it meander, and I like that about those
That's
novels.
interesting. I never knew that.
That's my favorite like era for literature, probably because it gives such a great opportunity for that deep world building.
Yeah.
It's also the era of Penny Dreadfuls, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And this actually turns into adventure serials. Once we get,
Yeah.
so
That
it's,
makes. I bet the Count of Monte Cristo was the same way. Actually, that original book is
Okay,
super
so
long.
difference is- he
Yeah,
was French.
maybe so. No, I mean the French did it too.
yeah, I remember something. Well, it was Dumas, right?
Yeah.
Dumas.
Dumont. Alexandre Dumont.
No, just Dumas.
He has a first name. It's Alain. I love the French. I hate French. There's
You
a
have a
difference.
problem.
French has a lot of problems. So this is why I think Kevin Feige's Thanos snapped the MCU shows. Is because they were because he wants to replace them all with his own homegrown Disney Plus show because he wasn't in charge of those.
I don't know if I would call those homegrown since they're coming out of a machine.
Before we just like nosedive into the mire of all the Marvel indulgence that we want, Allison and Rachel just having mostly gone off of like the actual existing movies because that's really their main audience is just people who will spend money on their movies, not necessarily all the comic book fans at this point, because they've rebuilt the Marvel fan base and not as just people who read comic books. So like, based on the characters that you guys are familiar with and have like seen already, and the ones that you know of from the comics and stuff, like, what do you want to see next coming out of this one?
Black Panther gets rid of structural oppression in America. Black Panther does reparations, whatever. Like, Black Panther goes to the inner city and fixes everything. That's what I want to see, the miniseries.
I'm not super invested in anyone left over.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Are you saying you don't like Spider-Man?
I do like Spider-Man.
Whoa, that tone's not good with me. I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
I want Spider-Man to make an appearance in Black Panther fixes America's problems as a team with Shuri to do science. Okay, anyways, that's my...
I'm trying to think. I don't know. I just don't like as many of the characters that are left over now. Like, I'm pretty, like... On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like a solid 6 on most of them, including like Black Panther, Captain Marvel. There was another one that I'm totally forgetting. Whoever's taking over Captain America.
Oh, the Falcon.
He's like a 4. I'm like a 4 on him.
Actually, I would be very happy to have a Falcon takes over the Captain America storyline. I just don't want it to be Anthony Mackie.
Well, if you kind of, I was thinking about this, if you like replace the previous Avengers with what we currently have, it would make sense for Black Panther to be Captain America. Like, in terms of role and personality, he's like a very like true, lawful good for the people, constantly sacrificing, a little straight-faced.
I mean, I guess the tradition, again, you're right, it doesn't have anything to do with traditional standpoints anymore. But like the deal with, like, he has to run his own country is kind of the issue there.
Right.
And that will be a tension in the show.
Oh, see, there you go.
Do you want to be a lawyer or a superhero? Do you want to be the king of the wealthiest nation in the world, or a guy who's out there risking his neck every night?
Well, I guess Wakanda's like
Spider-Man would take Iron Man.
Because
he's got the technology.
Just based on
the leadership, he's got the personality. Like, just in that, it's strong and overpowering.
They mentioned it in the trailer for the next Spider-Man movie. Is what I was gonna say. Is that like he specifically says something about like, I think the idea is that he's gonna be the next. As far as like the role goes, he's going to be the next Iron Man. He's going to be the face, right?
Yeah,
like he's going to be the face of the MCU now.
Yeah, see, that makes sense.
We still have. So I think Hulk's probably done.
I hope Hulk's done.
Hulk is done. Is like he's a visitor.
Cameo,
Actually, not too much unlike what he did in Endgame.
Yeah.
Like he also so in the last act of Endgame, he was there doing. He did the. I've seen this brought up a lot. He's the one who actually brought everybody back. Everybody always kind of like gives credit to Tony, but he's actually the one who unsnapped everybody.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Oh, okay.
Iron Man just snapped away Thanos.
Right.
I see.
But the other ones, so the other big players still in the game are the Guardians of the Galaxy.
We cut out there for a minute. Sorry about that. Anyway,
we solved world hunger in the meantime. Sorry.
Actually, we just learned appropriate finger guns.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. See, they got it.
Anyway, Thor.
Thor.
Okay,
Oh, right, Thor.
I'm so ready for Adventures of Depression Thor.
Me too.
Yeah, I love Depression Thor. I relate so much to depressed Thor.
I think
who is still
Thor
worthy,
is
as many inspirational, wholesome meme groups have pointed out.
So are there other out in space heroes that we haven't gotten yet that might be
Captain Marvel?
That's true. I guess they could run into the Guardians at some point.
happened to
and traditionally the Fantastic Four.
They do have some space things going on, yeah.
Right, they're new. I think so. The other person, the big person to mention, just to bring in as is Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
sort of like the moderator of the.
Right. He's the new Hulk.
Right, and I mean, I know that the next movie, because the Doctor Strange 2 has the same director and writer and people. Okay. He wants to explore more like a horror sort of angle.
Interesting.
Because like the idea is like everybody's all protecting the universe, and I'm like, yeah, we've got a lot of cosmic dimensions too.
Yeah,
because there's also Ant-Man, but
no.
Ant-Man's been a great addition to other movies.
Yeah, I agree. He could say that.
There's
way.
a lot of characters that I think would be good as long as they stay relegated to like showing up in other people's stuff for the most part.
I'm excited for all of the women that were left over. Actually,
Yeah,
they pretty much like
there were more
cut out
than
the
I
one
thought.
that wasn't any good.
Right.
That's what I remember like from the shot of all the women standing next to each other in Endgame. The main thing I remember thinking from that was, wow, there are a lot more women than I thought there were, actually.
Right. I think so. There's been a lot of talk about that scene. I still love that scene, actually.
I think,
it's
I
great.
mean, yes.
Like,
My response to anybody who complains is the exact same shot has been done with males for every single Marvel movie in existence so far, so it's fine. Shut up.
Even past that, people say like, which I mean, I'm also very my first thought thinking was like, my first thought was, wow, there's more than I thought, which I think is fair because Marvel's been criticized in the past for not having. So
yeah.
And even if you dislike everything about that shot, you can at least like it on the basis of Marvel going, are you done? Shut up. Which I think is a bare minimum way to approach it. Sure. I thought it was a good shot. I thought I just watched 6 men beat up Thanos for an hour, and I didn't. But the other thing is, people say it was cheesy. You know what's way cheesier? Avengers Assemble. But by God, if my heart didn't stop for that moment.
I completely agree.
I actually didn't notice that it was all women. I just thought, oh, the characters are defending Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. That's like why.
Then you're decades ahead of everybody else.
I knew that already, Kyle.
I remember thinking it was super cute that they kind of played with the idea that all the women came around Spider-Man.
Yeah,
right, well,
He's so cute. He's
so
so young.
cute,
He's so adorable, and all the women just were like, they just kind of like, they gathered around one for the really great shot, but it made sense because Spider-Man is the one you do that for.
Right, that's like let's protect him at all costs.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, he looked pretty rough too. So like in that last shot.
Spider-Man has a hella young fan base, and he's young and he's sweet, so he's pure and innocent. We should protect him.
Like legitimately, it's probably dangerous how much I'm okay with Spider-Man doing anything. Like if they got Spider-Man to announce like a new introduction of fascism, I'd be like, well, let's give him a shot.
Don't say that.
Did they bring Gamora back?
They did.
Wrong Gamora.
She is alive
Wait,
again.
she's alive again?
It's 2014 Gamora.
But she has no memories of what's happened.
Well, it never happened to her.
That's
They could
exciting.
fix her.
They could. I'm actually
Could.
Okay, I'm rooting for Gamora and Thor to get together now.
Maybe
Screw Peter Quill.
Maybe
Okay,
Nebula
I'm just
could have
throwing
like
that out there.
They could just
throw
add a
it
new
into
voice box
space.
on Nebula. Like she's a cyborg.
I liked her voice. Is she still alive?
Yeah.
Cool.
She is.
I actually like a lot of the women left over. I like Nebula. I like Mantis. I really like Okoye.
Yeah.
She is my favorite Marvel woman. I kind of like Captain Marvel. I love Scarlet Witch. Like I like a lot of the women left over.
Well, what's
but-
interesting to me, so I'm super interested in is that Scarlet Witch has a ton of untapped story potential. Actually, like I mean, and this is like
I think we need
know-
a third Quicksilver.
a third Quicksilver.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean another man to die for her, or
No,
like,
like I think they should go back to like some of her
oh,
past
like
story
a
'cause
physical
it's really
third Quicksilver
good.
because we have like the one from the X-Men movies and then the one from
So
the
we
Marvel
can have the
movies.
incest
Okay.
plot.
Yes.
You know, it's
It would help develop it more. Like I know people
Yeah.
are like, ew, incest, but it's kind of I think it's kind of a big deal.
Well, like she's never had traditional love interest. Her last one was a robot.
I
So
really
she's
I
like-
love
that's her
Vision
brother.
so
we
much.
should explore
So
this.
Wait, hold on. I want to take an opportunity to ask our fans to do work that I don't. I for a long time have pointed out when Allison makes amazing quotes and said that I want to put them down in a book, but haven't ever actually taken the time to do it.
No.
But people listening to the podcast might. So, first quote for the new Allison quote book is people are like, ew, incest.
Say,
Okay,
like,
calm down.
you used to have an Ian quote book, and I feel
Did
really
I?
replaced. Oh yeah.
That's fair. A lot of Kyle is surrounded by very quotable people.
I am.
That's what we're good for.
What was Rachel's?
You've been blessed by science.
You've been blessed by science.
Oh yeah, that was. Listen, check that out in our other podcast by donating $5 on Patreon or on Monster TV.
Honestly, it's way more fun than this podcast.
They're both fun.
The last one's about Metal Gear Solid, so
Well, kinda.
So breaking it down, I think the central driving thread of the entire Marvel universe so far has been Iron Man. I think the next one clearly is going to be and should be Spider-Man, right? He's the
interestingly
center line.
I'm going to take a small disagreement here. I think, especially since they got hold of the Avengers movies, the Russo brothers have been making sure that Captain America is really a stronger driving force than Iron Man. Like,
so?
Iron Man 3 hasn't happened how long ago?
Yeah.
But then we had Winter Soldier, Civil War, Avengers, and then it, like...
That is true, but it still feels like he's the main dude.
Well,
Like,
I think it's like, I mean, Civil War was such a, like, Civil War was basically Avengers 2.5, right? Like,
he was in that. He showed up in the Spider-Man movie as, like, the mentor figure. Like, I don't know. I mean, they did a pretty good job of making them the two.
And they are both gone now. So
Yeah.
it was just a kind of a... That was a scholarly quibble.
Yeah.
But no, I think...
But I do think Spider-Man's going to be, like, one of the really important figures.
He definitely is going to be,
forward.
for sure.
And I think it's... Personally, I love this version of Spider-Man because of how Spider-Man-y he isn't yet. Yeah. Because he gets to develop into that character now. Mm-hmm. And he gets to do it by throwing all of the great villains at him and, like, having him change through horrible adversity.
I don't know why I'm just now realizing this podcast is an excuse for you and Ian to go back and forth on what the future of Spider-Man looks like. But I should have known this was coming a long time ago.
You should always know that's the point of every one of these episodes.
Right. I'm so disappointed in myself. No wonder you pushed so hard for it.
So I won't just do Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man's gonna be the important one, and I think so. I'm gonna go ahead and throw out my unpopular opinion. Which is, I think that the Fantastic Four should be a fairly central part in the upcoming.
I think this is good.
The series, and I know a lot of people don't like that because of every other movie depiction of the Fantastic Four ever, which is fair because it's been terrible every time.
It's kind of weird because the first two Fantastic Four movies were actually really great for their time period.
I thought they were fine. A lot of people say they don't like them.
They were I think on par with at least some of the weaker X-Men movies. And also had Chris Evans, so hey.
Yeah, they were definitely better than, like, Spider-Man 3 also. Like, they weren't the worst superhero movies of the time.
By weaker X-Men movies, you mean the third one?
Yes.
Okay.
And the Origins movies. There's a bunch of... There's, like, 2 or 3 movies that came out in between Spider-Man 3 and First Class. Or, like, shortly after First... There's like there's a few different Wolverine movies. There's, like, The Wolverine, and then there's Wolverine Origins.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And also, Logan is pretty good.
I freaking loved Logan. It was amazing. I want to see Logan Noir.
But yeah, I think the Fantastic Four could and should be pretty prominent figures just within that world, even if it's only introducing them in a movie and then having them kind of be background characters like they did with Doctor Strange. Just because they are... I feel like they represent the state of the world as it would be at this point, which is that superheroes are so commonplace that you have literally like the Kardashians of superheroes exist now. It's this family who walks around with their no masks, just their faces playing out in the open. They wear a big 4 on their chest. They live in a penthouse at the top of a skyscraper with a big 4 on the outside of it.
I think I'm forgetting the plot of Fantastic Four.
No, they've always been celebrity superheroes.
That's weird. Okay, cool.
The other thing is we're down a genius.
Right, yeah, and Reed Richards would be a good fill-in for, like, having another science guy around.
The biggest thing why I want the Fantastic Four in is not to do with Fantastic Four, it's Doctor Doom.
Well, right, that's the other thing, is I want to see Doctor Doom as a big...
Tony Stark.
Yeah, Tony Stark's gone. There just isn't a Tony Stark replacement as far as, like, their brain goes, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Like, he figured out time travel. Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, they have Bruce Banner, but the whole point, like, there was a whole thing in Endgame about how Bruce Banner wasn't as good.
There's a difference. There's a difference between geniuses and magic smart. Geniuses have to work for their knowledge. Shuri just knows things. It's not fair.
She'll be the new smart one.
And racist.
No. Wow, okay. It's great. Somebody should say it. Why not?
Summed up.
I do think it's fair. Like Shuri is definitely, like, an intelligent sorcerer, almost, like, just based on the things that
I get that. It's a writing problem, I think.
Well, I mean, she's smart in the same way that like an alien character would be smart or something.
Right,
But it's not that she's not smart. It's just that she's smart and she also has access to a whole bunch of, like, future tech that.
I mean, she's kind of alien. Wakanda's kind of.
I mean, that's true of Iron Man too.
There's a quote from the first Avengers, like, when did you become an expert on particle physics? He said, last night, right? He had to study for it. Sure, he knows everything when you ask her.
That's all.
She is canonically the smartest one.
She just studied it like a week ago.
No. They brought new technology that hadn't existed and didn't have any books on it.
I would actually say that so far Shuri hasn't really represented the fact that she's a super intelligent character as much as Shuri has represented the technology of Wakanda. Kind of. It's
I don't know. She corrected Bruce Banner and Tony Stark on the spot.
No, she did. I just mean that she is the face of Wakandan tech more
She
than
is.
she is
Which
like.
is about the failures of socialism, probably, because it's all unbranded, it's government owned.
I think you mean the success of autocratic regimes.
So anyway, we're down a
down a
brain.
genius.
we're down your kind of like classic, just sort of like
Has to-
scientist character, I
Right,
guess.
no,
and
it's
that's-
actually,
that's
I think that's a
Fantastic
good
Four,
Mr.
man.
Fantastic is
Mr.
yeah, he's
Fantastic.
the,
By
I will-
classic
I will-
scientist character, do you mean like a man?
No.
not necessarily.
Is that
just,
what you meant?
just person in a lab coat that like works in their garage kind of thing.
Actually, so
Okay,
I think
okay.
there's a really
Okay.
important distinction here. Bruce Banner and
I
Tony
mean-
Stark are scientists, right? Like they figure out concepts. Like, but Shuri and traditionally Spider-Man are engineers.
That's
They
a good
make.
point.
I mean,
Okay.
also, I mean, like
So maybe
obviously
it's the
Tony
time
Stark
for
engineers stuff too.
engineers. Yeah,
But it's
not
a-
scientists.
But so Dr.
gonna say,
Richards
yeah.
is a different kind of Reed Richards. He's kind of like he's more like a science like
he's like a physicist or something
right,
like
well,
that.
when there's some sort of unexplainable like cosmic phenomena, right? Shuri
Yeah.
knows how to make stuff, but she doesn't know like astronomy, right? Like she's not necessarily like an expert on like how like physics, like interplanetary physics works.
Isn't Miss Fantastic or whatever her name is? Isn't she just a worse Incredible Woman or whatever?
No,
her
so
name
yeah,
is?
no. The Invisible Woman in every iteration of her in the past is
Invisible.
horrible and would need like a really big
There's,
upgrade.
I think in the comics she has some strong moments, so she fluctuates.
Is she invisible
no.
or does she stretch?
She's invisible.
No, that's
Okay,
Mrs.
I'm getting-
Incredible.
I'm getting it
Stretches.
mixed up then.
Yeah, no,
I-
they
I
kind of.
feel like
it's a weird mix.
The
Yeah.
Fantastic Four can't be super serious after the Incredibles because they
agree.
ripped off a lot of their powers, and I remember
Yeah.
thinking that at the time.
That's actually an interesting plot.
yeah.
I don't think they should be super serious.
they
I think
actually-
they should actually add a bit of levity into the Marvel
They're not-
like and like.
Yeah.
They're not a family, are they? They're the
They,
two. They're
so
the couple and the
two
rock
are
man.
married. The Human Torch is her brother,
and then there's just a rock.
and then there's the
Just a
thing.
rock guy.
Yeah.
And then they have a pet rock.
Fair
The
enough.
Rock Guy's my
I
favorite.
actually think because Incredibles parodied them so wacky, slapsticky.
Yeah.
So I think what'll probably happen, and this isn't great because I think you're right, levity's good. They'll probably do the James Bond route. So there's a big gap between Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig, James Bond's.
Yeah.
In the middle, Austin Powers happened. And so when
Yes, Austin Powers.
they remade the Daniel Craig Bonds, they go, we can never be hokey again.
Oh sure.
And so they made him like this gritty, brutal, realistic, like shaken or stirred, do I look like I give a damn style character.
So I see where you're going. You're saying they're going to make them a little bit more gritty. But I will say they have a wealth of information on how not to do Fantastic Four at this point.
Sure.
So,
I'm just saying it's following like if we're using the past as a predictor of the future, that's all I can like. Now Marvel's always been very good at forging their own path though, so we'll
Yeah.
see.
So, but you brought up the interesting point, which I think the most valuable thing to come out of introducing Fantastic Four is bringing in Doctor Doom as the main villain behind everybody, like behind the series this
yeah.
time.
So for one thing,
He's a really good character.
He's super good. The basic rundown on Doctor Doom is so he's almost as rich as Black Panther, right? He's almost as rich as T'Challa because he's the
Right, he also has his own country, right?
right Latveria, not
Also a
Latvia.
fake company.
Latveria?
Yeah.
Latveria.
Okay,
yes, it's
yeah.
like Genovia. It's
Okay.
but so Latveria. The other thing is, so he's up there. He gets hit by the same cosmic rays that the Fantastic Four do. They're cosmic. That's one of the dividers. Like the
Right.
either quantum or cosmic in terms of
Which I guess means they could be mixed in with Miss Marvel pretty well too.
right.
maybe?
Yeah, because it's but
Captain Marvel.
Captain
Captain-
Marvel. Yeah, sorry, Miss Marvel is a different character.
no
Miss
same
Marvel
character.
is-
It's a rebranding.
Oh, okay, Captain
Yeah.
Marvel. Yeah.
But plus she was in the Air Force, so she's officially it's just
Oh,
she
right,
used
yeah,
them. She's a captain. But the thing about him is it's the so the only thing I'm kind of worried about is they already use this plot line a little bit with Doctor Strange. The
Right.
idea is Doctor Strange,
The other Doctor.
right, Doctor Doom, he saw the future, and he saw that the only way the universe doesn't end is if he rules the world.
Okay.
Now, he saw a future, doesn't mean that there aren't other futures that, like, Doctor Strange saw, right? But
Have we seen Doctor Doom?
No.
Okay.
No,
He's
he
never
hasn't
been
been
done
to-
right,
yeah.
ever. But he's super interesting because he's theoretically like a lawful neutral, accidentally slipping into lawful evil. Like, you don't understand, I have to be dictator of the world or else everything is going to die.
Right, and that's a common human thought. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
a
Yeah.
good plot line to build off
Yeah,
of.
it's really interesting when you just solidify that like as fact in someone's head, basically,
Right.
and
That'd
see
be
what that does to them.
And it's not comic book evil. It's not just,
Right.
it's not mustache twirling. It's
Right.
There's
And
a
he
lot of
also
human
has
elements.
interesting powers too. So because he's not he's not just vaguely strong like Thanos or have magical powers like Loki. He's a guy. He wears metal armor and he has lightning powers, I think, and that's pretty much it. Like he doesn't have a whole lot going on.
Right,
as
and
far
then
as,
he
like, a power
leverages
suite.
government wealth.
Right, yeah, he's like a diplomatic Game of Thrones. He's like, you know what he is? He's like Tywin Lannister if he had like lightning powers.
Actually, the other thing is the Latverians really like Doctor Doom. He actually runs Latveria very well.
Right.
He probably. It sounds like he does. Yeah.
So he's a super great. And the other thing I like about this is because I don't like the other major like Marvel villain is like Galactus who eats worlds or something.
Right, which would just be boring at this point, I think.
We've already done the cosmic threat with Thanos.
Yeah.
Right.
We've already seen the giant ineffable god with like Dormammu kind of deal.
Yeah.
So this is something I just saw on a Reddit post the other day. I kind of thought was kind of interesting that I hadn't considered before. What does Doctor Strange do without the Time Stone now?
Go back to being a surgeon.
He mentioned what he was gonna do.
I mean, he still has the other
like,
magic.
Wasn't he just gonna like protect the galaxies or whatever?
I guess so. It's just kind of like the Time Stone, the Eye of Agamotto was like so much his deal.
That's true.
Yeah.
It does change his costume now, right? Because he doesn't have the necklace anymore.
It just,
so-
it just doesn't have the green in it. That's all.
That's true. I guess he can still
Anyway.
keep the fashion piece.
Yeah, I guess all the monks still had their powers when they didn't have the stone, right?
But
Yeah.
he had superpowers.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this. You said Doctor Doom, and I immediately thought of Apocalypse. I think is his name.
From X-Men.
Oh,
from
yeah.
X-Men, and it
I
was
don't know much
really,
about that.
They did Thanos wrong essentially in a lot of different ways. Apocalypse is the character that like can't be beaten. I don't remember why he like eats powers or something. I don't know. But he is the Thanos. Like, how are they gonna get out of this one?
Yeah.
And it would be like if Thanos came in and was like as big of a threat as he was,
Yeah.
in the movies, and then like and then I guess Captain Marvel just like single-handedly defeated him, basically.
Sure.
Like
Oh,
it was
cool.
essentially the same
He's the brand
storyline.
new person.
It was not only was it none of the experienced X-Men that could do it, it was all of the young ones who don't have any control of their power, and not only that, it was the person who had the least control of her power and was like the most new to it and the most emotionally unstable was able to do it. I guess at the loss of her soul, though, because the next one is Dark Phoenix. So
This is Jean Grey. Jean Grey.
Yeah, it is Jean Grey.
So it's kind of interesting parallel with Captain Marvel, really, because like Jean Grey she's canonically like the strongest telepath.
Yeah.
Like she's up there like with Professor X.
Yeah.
And then like she nearly dies, and the Dark Phoenix takes her over.
right.
And is the deal, and so it's like it's
I'm excied for Dark Phoenix. One, it's Sansa, so
yeah.
But
I never saw Apocalypse,
Apocalypse it was just not. It was the wrong way to do like a really
Right.
scary villain and then like have his demise because it was just super unbelievable. Like
Right, well, that's the thing is that I heard this criticism of it. To make Apocalypse real, you'd have to do the Thanos thing where you introduce him over like 6 movies.
yeah,
But Dark Phoenix is like the interesting part of X-Men. A lot of it's one of those like sort of like how Thanos is like one of the top 3 Marvel stories you want to tell.
Yeah.
Most X-Men movies and franchises have been directed towards making Dark Phoenix work. This is also
Yeah.
where X-Men 3 failed.
this is where
And they did the Venom thing with Spider-Man 3. They introduced the Dark Phoenix and had it like relevant for like 20 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I don't know anything about Doctor Doom or really the Fantastic Four. I remember the first movie. It was Jessica Alba.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I actually thought they cast the first movie pretty well and made
Right.
it look
They got the
decent
guy
and,
from The
like-
Shield to be Ben Grimm, who was just like
Michael Chiklis.
yeah. Who is
Yeah.
he the guy from?
Remember. I was
Is he
like,
the guy
so
from Breaking
young.
Bad, or does Michael Chiklis
No.
just look like the guy from
No,
Breaking
he's not the
Bad?
guy from Breaking Bad. I think Michael Chiklis has to be old now, right? Like,
It doesn't matter. He's a rock.
So I guess we can start building up all of the characters that are left over because the Avengers were basically undefeatable to some
Yeah,
degree,
right.
except for Thanos, which is like the only person who could have done it. So now we just get to watch
And they
all of
did
the
the
other
development
ones
span.
develop
so I think
into
that's,
super cool superheroes again.
that's actually kind of what I want out of it. Is I want them to almost kind of lower the stakes now. I want them to bring
Yeah.
it back down and have it feel more
Personal,
street
yeah.
level. Like,
yeah, 'cause they gotta-
my other personal goal is I just want to see this Spider-Man and Daredevil in a thing together. I don't care
Right.
what strings they have to pull or who they have to pay.
So,
I just want it to happen.
this is what I was saying about the old Netflix series. They got like Phase just like because Netflix was, as far as we can tell, actually this goes against what I thought really earlier before. Netflix was fine keeping those series going,
Yeah,
but they pulled the plug on them. Like Disney pulled the plug on them all.
right.
And I feel like that's because so they started off under the control of Ike Perlmutter, who is a notorious penny pincher up in the hierarchs of Marvel.
Yeah.
And they weren't like, and he was obviously really good to start off the MCU because it was an unknown thing, right?
Yeah.
And eventually they got Perlmutter transferred over to something else. I'm hoping these names are right, whatever, close enough. And so then they were the series weren't directly under somebody else's control, but still Kevin Feige wasn't actually like the grandpappy of the Netflix series, which is why there was never any crossovers.
Right. But they still mentioned, like, it's still part of the same universe because they mentioned the whole attack on New York thing.
So the idea is, I don't think they wouldn't just reboot those same series again.
Yeah,
but
I didn't have hope of this weird fantasy happening until they announced the whole Disney thing, because now I'm like, well, maybe they can actually do it if they're, like, pulling all this stuff back in.
What I'm hoping is they have something like Daredevil show up in somebody else's series.
Yeah.
Just surprise Charlie Cox.
I would love that. Well, not just Daredevil, but also Kingpin, because Kingpin started as a Spider-Man villain in the comics originally. And I want to see Tom Holland fight that guy real bad. That would be really cool.
I already saw that, though. That was in the Spider-Verse one.
No. I want to see Tom Holland fight Vincent D'Onofrio.
I see. Okay.
People.
I just want to watch Vincent D'Onofrio in anything.
Yeah.
I love him so much. I have such a crush on him.
Well, and by the end of it, I don't know if you guys still haven't seen the third season
haven't,
yet,
but it's fine. Go ahead for it.
He becomes Kingpin proper by the end of it. Like, he gets the whole white suit, he gets Fisk Tower, like, he becomes the character by the end of that
We need
season.
to finish Daredevil.
It's so good.
And so I want him in Spider-Man. I just want to see it.
I still haven't seen the last season of Jessica Jones even, which is...
I haven't either. I keep forgetting that exists.
Or season 2 of Jessica Jones. Like,
or The Punisher. You see
Or
that
Luke
one
Cage.
also.
Punisher. Actually, I have 2 seasons of Punisher to watch.
Oh, you haven't seen the first one yet?
Yeah.
I don't
First
think I
one
can
was
watch
good.
Punisher. Again, I really don't like anti-heroes or whatever.
I think you could watch the first... I honestly do think you could watch the first season. The first episode is a little bit rough because they're, like, introducing the concept, but you can actually skip the first episode and it has no bearing on the plot whatsoever.
Okay.
That's kind of weird.
And then all he does is, as far as I can tell, it's just the Punisher kills the cartels.
I've been impressed with their ability to not glorify anything he does. Like, they do a really good job showing it.
That's a different podcast.
It is, but
That's the anti-hero podcast again.
Huh?
That's the anti-hero podcast again.
Yeah.
Like-
Well, no, we have a specific. Oh yeah, no,
anyway,
it is that. No,
I think
yeah.
it's worth watching.
Okay, whatever.
Oh, that scene in the Punisher was so stressful when he like was letting the guy die in like the cement pit or whatever, where he was just
In the
killing
first
every
episode.
bad guy while he
Right.
just let the guy like die. I was like screaming at the TV. I
will say...
yeah.
I originally thought this podcast was going to be what we thought happened in the 5 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, actually, that's fine because that's still Disney Plus.
Oh right, that's what
That's
they're.
true.
I think that's
So
what
this
they're
is like the
doing.
Black
with
Widow
all
movie.
Wait, really?
Wait, what? They
All
really?
the characters that they're going back on, like doing like the Falcon and Winter Soldier, or like the
Like
Black Widow movie,
Scarlet Witch
or
and
not Black
Vision.
Widow, but Scarlet Witch and Vision.
That was
maybe.
I don't know what they're doing with that
That's
one.
true, they're gonna do
Yeah,
that.
but
They're
I'm
setting
pretty
a few
sure
of them in the 5-year gap. I
like
think
the Black Widow movie has to be in the 5-year gap.
Right. I want to see a Black Widow slice of life film.
I don't.
That's what I want.
I did hear though that they were gonna say that in the last 5 year, in that like 5-year gap, she started working at an orphanage.
Orphanage?
Orphanage?
I don't know why that word just like got away from. I'm like, how many judges are in that word?
Not this is so just take this moment.
Zhush.
Y'all need to listen to Hamilton.
Actually, John is now telling us we need to listen to.
John is a
Hamilton.
huge Hamilton fan.
Oh my God! Really?
Yeah.
We finally have a Hamilton friend who
Oh,
lives
yeah.
in town.
I have a whole
he's-
thing planned for 4th of July. Don't worry, we're gonna do it.
Okay.
But no, it's just like
Orphanage.
the only 3 things in my life are Spider-Man, Hamilton, and Metal Gear Solid. That's everything reminds me of one of those 3 things.
Anyway, they said she was going to work at an orphanage, and then they threw out that idea. I guess the thinking was because she never had like family, she was going to kind of like give back, and then they were
Right.
like, no, this is not true to character. And I think they threw the idea out. At least that's what I remember hearing on Reddit. Because yeah, I don't like her. I don't want her movie.
Oh, but I thought you liked her after Endgame.
No, she was best in Endgame.
That's fair.
And her death was a good, worthy death, and just leave it there. Like,
Okay.
genuinely,
Yeah.
sometimes the best thing that you can do for a character is to kill them. Like, genuinely, there are times where like, oh, like this is a Game of Thrones thing. Honestly, like sometimes the best
Yep.
thing you can do to like really develop that character and make them beloved forever is to kill them in a really, really great, worthy
Actually, so
way.
the landmark for this is the second Robin in Batman.
Yeah.
Because it was Tim Drake as the first Robin. Oh, I'm gonna ruin these names because I'm not a Batman buff, and all the Batman buffs can come for me. But so there's Tim Drake who's a Robin, and there's another character who's
Dick
a Robin.
Grayson.
Dick Grayson. And so they introduced Dick Grayson, I believe, or maybe it's Tim Drake.
It's Dick Grayson.
Dick Grayson's the new one, the second one.
Yes.
And so Tim Drake's already gone off, and he's like Nightwing or whatever. And they introduce Dick Grayson, and everybody hates Dick Grayson. Everybody hates New Robin. And so they operate it's their first use of the the DC phone line. They conduct a phone poll, and it costs like 25 cents, which is that's like 2.5 comics, right? To call in and cast your vote whether or not they would let Dick Grayson live or die. And or is it Todd? There's a Jason Todd, right?
Oh, maybe it's Jason Todd that died. I think Dick Grayson is Nightwing.
Right, they killed Jason Todd. Sorry,
that's right.
We got there in the end. Batman
I was gonna Google it.
But so they say everybody hates Jason Todd, and they have Joker just come in and beat his head in with a lead pipe.
Oh my god!
Wow.
Right, and they brutally murder Jason Todd. Everybody's like, this is what I'm here for.
And like Batman has these flashbacks to the murder of Robin like constantly, like in the comics.
Oh my God.
In the
Call it
comics
Death in
I
the
read,
Family.
like it's really
It's
like
a huge
it's
part of
like a
Batman's
chip
character.
he carries on his shoulder forever because the universe hated him. I mean, our universe hated
That's
him.
a better story for Batman, honestly.
Right.
Like I could get behind that one. The other one
Batman.
is stupid. So.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because like Batman's always most interesting when he has his
God,
like.
I hate Batman.
I still haven't shown her Batman Begins, and I still really want to.
You haven't
I
seen
bet I'll still hate him.
You might. I just want to get your opinion on it. I just want you to see it, just so,
Why do you-
just so I can see.
I actually haven't seen Batman Begins in forever.
I think the character is dumb, like all around. I think the reason he became Batman is stupid. I think the like egomaniac personality is stupid. I think the bat suit is stupid. I think the voice is stupid. I think the premise behind anything he does is stupid. I think all the
So,
movies are stupid.
the
I think his
Wow.
villains are pretty cool, but they're ruined by the fact that Batman is stupid.
The reason
Like,
I like Batman Begins.
He has no powers. He's not interesting because
He's
he doesn't
super rich,
have
which is the biggest
powers.
power.
But they already
point
did that
of
with
him.
Iron Man, and they showed how to do that right. So Batman just looks stupid in comparison. Iron Man's like, I'm gonna build a whole suit and go to space, and Batman's like, I have bat flying thingies.
So I think what's interesting about Batman is it's always possible to show
Bat
one.
stars.
Listen,
Sorry, Ninja the Bat Ninja
okay.
stars.
No matter what, you cannot take the word batarang away from me. Even if Batman never existed, batarang is a word that needs to exist.
Bat stars.
So what I will say is I agree with you on with a degree of separation that I think it's basically only ever possible to show one aspect of Batman correctly at a time. Like he has this I don't kill anybody rule, which is kind of at odds with his like. You know, I'm the goddamn Batman style, like, rough thing. Yeah. He's also got this, like, dark and brooding thing, but that doesn't really work with the fact that he's dressed up like a bat. He's got this whole, like, I'm an emblem and I'm a symbol of fear kind of thing. That doesn't work with literally anything else.
Give me a good explain it really well.
Well, here.
Why an adult man wears a bat suit? Just give me.
I just have one thing to say. The reason I like the Batman Begins movie is because they actually play into the hamminess of it. In real life to some degree, they don't make it dark and gritty the same way it is in some of the. I mean, it's the same series, weirdly, but they don't really push it as like dark and gritty as much. Yeah. The whole thing is when he's a kid, he's afraid of bats. He then goes.
No. I think you're gonna give me a good reason.
Wait.
I don't think you're gonna explain it well. I think you're gonna tell me about.
Hold on.
All right.
He's afraid. When he's a kid, he's afraid of bats.
Sure.
He goes and does this whole like. Ninja, like he gets picked up by this ninja training facility at some point and like grows up like being trained like a shadow ninja or something.
What?
And then when he goes back,
This is more confusing.
He like some weird guy. Liam Neeson finds him and teaches him how to be Liam Neeson.
You missed some key components here.
No, that's it.
When he goes back home and gets all of his money back and stuff and decides to start doing this, he's like, I want to be a symbol of fear, and the thing I was afraid of as a kid was bats, so I'm going to make myself look like a bat and make everything that I have look like bats. And Alfred is like, that seems kind of dumb, and he's like, I don't care, this is what I want to do.
Hold up. I asked for someone to give me a good, reasonable explanation for why a grown man would dress up in a bat suit, and you did exactly not that. So,
I got it. Oh my god, I want to kill you. No, I don't. I'm so sorry.
You're
I'm
very
just
Batman like.
frustrated.
Okay, when you're playing Overwatch, how do you know where Reinhardt is?
Because he's the big one.
Right. He's an immediately recognizable silhouette.
He is, yeah, absolutely.
Batman is an immediately recognizable silhouette.
Because of the ears?
Yes, because of the ears. And the cape.
It's
He looks
good
like a batarang.
design, but it's also stupid. But he got stuck into like a well as a boy filled with bats or something. Like there's a reason he has a primal fear of bats.
I mean,
Bats aren't a thing that people are that scared of.
It's okay to have a fear of bat, but like you don't see me like if I was gonna go be a vigilante.
Dressing like a bumblebee.
Right, I'm not gonna like walk around like a black and yellow striped suit with like wings so that I have identifiable like silhouette. Like
Well, this is in a world where superheroes are somehow acceptable. Like,
It's not
Spider-Man
really-
is also goofy, but
Spider-Man's
like,
not in the same world.
I'm just saying, like, it's a type of man that's
That's
part of a
what I mean, like,
spooky thing.
I think like,
It's-
it comes down to the TF2 silhouette design. Like
I agree.
He wants like that's why the bat signal works. It's like I need something that's a symbol so that no matter
Right.
they don't need to know me, right? He has to stick in the shadows because if you make it a man, like I'm not scared of Bruce Wayne. I'm scared of a symbol. And
okay,
so
this sounds like a writer's like description
So,
for why
but
he would dress up as a
fine.
bat,
I guess-
not a man's reasoning. Like he was not like I'm gonna dress up as a bat so I can
also-
open my
Well,
bat
okay.
cape and
He-
fly off
and
the thing, and then people are
To
like,
answer
wow, it
your-
looks like a bat.
To answer your original question, I guess there isn't specifically a good reason.
Actually,
Well, he
okay,
does
so-
like a
but-
vision
but
quest
in the
where-
movie, they don't. I guess what it is they don't actually present it as a good reason. He
Also,
goes, I'm
yeah,
afraid
actually-
of bats, and I'm going to confront my fear by dressing up as a bat.
He also-
and everybody else makes fun of him.
No,
for it
actually, I
in the
think this
movie.
you are a character in Batman Begins.
You are.
You're Morgan Freeman. You're
my
Morgan Freeman's just
God.
you want this because he's like stuff, and Morgan Freeman's like you're a dumbass, but you're a rich dumbass.
Rachel, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
It sounds like
Yeah.
you were gonna go like a spiritual route, which
all
I'm
the
up for.
all
like,
the emotional reasons why he's Batman, like all have to do with like primal fear, like him getting stuck in like a cave or whatever with bats when he was a kid, which would be terrifying if you think about it.
it would be terrifying.
They're
I
scary.
agree.
And also as an adult, when he did the ninja training, he like did drugs and had like an experience where he saw the bats again and renewed the
true.
primal
Actually-
terror within his body, and that's the whole ninja school thing.
Yeah.
Like, and they were like channel that fear, whatever, blah blah blah. And then
doesn't
he's like,
actually
and then when
bring
he's
forward
like
my good
thinking
reason.
about fear, like Kyle was saying before, it was like become the fear, become the fear, and he became what he feared the most,
Okay,
a
okay.
bat. Okay, anyway.
This did work. Drugs was a reasonable explanation.
See? I had the
You just imagine somebody
explanation.
like wonky off their ass on LSD walking around going, I'm a bat.
No, it's I'm a bat, which is way worse.
So actually, the other thing is, I think you're forgetting he's super bored and super rich, and he doesn't have parental oversight. Like, see, also,
This is the worst superhero.
Jaden Smith dressed up in a white bat suit. You want to know why?
That was amazing.
Because he had money and his parents didn't tell him no. You know what? Batman has money and he doesn't have parents to tell him no.
These are explanations for why Batman is Batman, but not for why he's a good superhero. Because he's not.
No,
He's
no,
the
no,
worst.
you moved the goalpost. I just want to make it
You're right,
reasonable
you're
that
right.
Bruce Wayne would.
You're right.
Like, if being rich and bored is good enough reason.
In
You're right. It's good
conclusion,
enough to dress up as a bat.
the correct way to do Batman is Daredevil.
I completely.
Daredevil is a way better
So,
Batman
actually,
than Batman
so
ever
what-
was.
I also hate his mask, but Daredevil is fine.
And he uses echolocation.
Yeah,
Right, no,
he does.
actually,
works.
if you told one of my favorite observations, I think it
is
was
it
a Tumblr post.
echolocation? Does he like scream?
And also the thing
He
that-
does hear. He does hear.
If you,
The-
if
the
you
thing
told
that
me
they're-
that if there was a superhero who was based entirely around facing your fears and using the dark of night to intimidate his foes, and somebody who was blind and used echolocation as a superpower, and you told me that one of their names was Batman and one of them was Daredevil, I would get it wrong every time.
That's fair. That's fair.
They both have pointy ears, though.
But it is basically the same thing, though, except that the thing Daredevil is afraid of is Satan. So he
Right,
dresses up as Satan.
Daredevil
Yeah,
is
I mean-
Batman with Catholic guilt.
Right.
Right, which I feel like really makes a lot more sense and is like very emotionally compelling, and Daredevil works. Batman does not.
But like I said, I agree. You can
Don't
only
like
show
Batman.
one good aspect of Batman at a time.
It's okay though. If the whole culture has bought into the idea of Batman as an acceptable
Everyone
thing,
has always
so,
liked Batman, and I've just never been on board.
Actually-
Honestly, I like Superman better, but the movies are not good.
The correct
Superman's
way to
a better character.
The correct way to consume Batman is the '90s TV show, the cartoon.
Right,
Not
that's a
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
that actually.
right. And Superman and Batman work as great foils to one another, which is part of what makes the DC universe strong.
Right.
So anyway, neither of these people are in the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
or probably the DC universe. Really.
I think this was an important tangent because I hate Batman.
I'm
and it's
actually I'm
worth
super on board.
addressing.
I've spent so many years trying to convince myself that Batman's a good character.
Just
You guys should talk to Philip. He has a Batman tattoo.
we need to.
Okay,
we mentioned
yeah.
this maybe. Did we mention this in this podcast? Is the last one I forgot. But
we need a DC rep.
we do need a DC rep because none of us are DC fans.
Right,
and
we
I don't
should
think
call,
we
we
give them a
can
fair
get Philip
chance.
to come into town for it, probably.
But so
Okay,
the future, what?
no, I just said fair. Like that's
Yeah.
a good idea.
I think what was the other? So I think as far as the future of the MCU goes, the other big deal is, do we integrate the X-Men?
So
Yes.
I've always
Yes.
felt like the X-Men is the logical conclusion of this entire arc. Like
Yeah.
the entire world developing superpowers and turning into basically what season 2 of Heroes tried to do way too early. Like
Now-
you eventually end up with just mutant genes forming and just some people have powers and you have to start to like control them somehow. And so that's what it eventually turns into.
Does anybody,
I-
but none of the Avengers had like God-given powers.
Well,
That's
see, actually, it kind of depends.
true.
So Scarlet Witch is an X-Man.
Right.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
then
She is.
Quicksilver-
Wasn't she given the powers through one of the stones or
theoretically,
something?
she had contact
was
with
an
the Mind Stone
experiment.
or the Reality Stone. I think the Reality
Yeah.
Stone.
That's
I thought
why
she-
she could
I thought
destroy
she
the
was-
stone in his head.
But she is-
because,
But she's a Russian experiment, which
She
means
is,
they
but
weren't
they-
God-given. So
well,
they were,
right. They used the stones to give her the powers,
Right.
which is why she was able to destroy Vision's Mind Stone or whatever. And
Okay. interesting.
Theoretically, I mean, so by God given, like, you know, it's all we need is something
Born
to cause a
with it.
genetic mutation, right?
That's true.
Like, so
Okay,
for
yeah.
instance, Bruce Banner technically has the same origin story as the X-Men. It's
Yeah.
just really super concentrated and epigenetic after
Okay,
the
that's
fact.
fair. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
science experiment, I guess.
Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's epigenetic.
I want that on a T-shirt.
Like I can see like a conflict between like Captain America and like actual mutants because
Right.
he like signed up for it and
So
Right.
one of the interesting things about the X-Men, and this is treading into controversial territory, the big deal about X-Men is they've always been a symbol for the oppressed, right?
Right.
Like the traditional metaphor is that they're gay, right? Like you come out as a mutant to your family, and
Yeah.
you have or you in the way back it was more about like the civil rights movement. Like you
Yeah.
had Professor X as Martin Luther King, and you had Magneto as Malcolm X.
Okay.
Which is a bit of a mix-up, but you know, whatever. Like the idea is like, does the oppressed population rise up through violence or through diplomatics, right?
right.
Yeah.
And nowadays, that's all so mainstream that it's a smaller battlefield,
Yeah.
Right.
and it's
That's
always like right
interesting.
now the whole
True.
like exploring like homophobia through the lens of fantasy has been done like. They kind of ran that entire course in the first season of True Blood, right? And then
Did they?
That's actually kind of a good
Haven't
the
point.
whole
True
like
Blood.
God hates fangs.
I
It's
didn't
a-
know that was a thing. Interesting. I want to see that show now.
Watch one season.
That's a good point. I guess X-Men is unfortunately
I
outdated.
guess I don't know. Like what their function would be in the current.
It would have to
universe.
be Marvel would have to like extend to like some sort of weird dystopian hatred of superpowers because something went
Yeah.
awry.
Right, we've already done that with the Sokovia Accords.
Yeah, that's kind of well, but we didn't see backlash from people. That was just the conflict between Iron Man and Captain
was-
America. But it wasn't so much like the
It
people
was a
against
government trying to mandate them because they failed.
Yeah,
There's ways to do it. I just think you lose some of the core function of the X-Men. That's not to
Yeah.
say that you can't bring
Yeah.
in X-Men as characters. And
Yeah.
I mean, like I think, like I kind of want every movie from here on out or every series from here on out to be more or less like Civil War, which is to say just like throw in random characters and just kind of see what sticks.
Yeah.
And so I don't think we like necessarily need to do a huge X-Men like only solo thing. This is interesting. Just bring back in the comics, which we don't necessarily need. They're just rebooting X-Men in the comics right now. Like they've had a few restarts in the past, like 4 restarts since 2014. They've always kept some of the X-Men comic lines not rebooted and just rebooted a couple at a time. Right now they're making a clean break, and for the next 6 months there are only 2 X-Men comic lines, and they are brand new. So
Okay.
there's a chance for them to start
Okay.
building new stories with the X-Men that in like say 4 years we could bring into the MCU in a totally new way.
Right.
that could be interesting.
I think that X-Men thing the social justice type thing can map onto a different thing
Yeah.
other than homophobia or racism.
true.
Maybe like mental illness would be a good one.
That'd be interesting.
that could be interesting.
Or
But-
just, I mean, who knows what problems are going to be happening in the world in like another 10 years.
I mean, right, I was going to say like
Maybe it's
maybe it'll be
automated
like
McDonald's kiosks.
I was going to say like robots, but the robots would just literally be robots. Like we don't have to bother with that.
We've already done this with Ultron.
We can take it back to like people hating talented people, but that's not really like a thing.
Is it even gonna is it gonna rely anything on the current X-Men movies, or is that an entirely
No.
different?
No, it's gonna have to be.
episode?
Yeah.
Also, I'm just saying, I don't think they want any legacy of Bryan Singer in anything anymore.
Who is that again?
He's the director of a bunch of the X-Men movies, and he got real hard like Kevin Spacey.
Oh.
Like he's big on underage boys.
Wasn't that the bartender in the one I hate, not the Batman one, but the Ryan Reynolds
Oh, Deadpool?
Deadpool. Was
You
that the
hate
bartender?
Deadpool?
No,
in
that's
that?
No,
that's
that's a different
T.J.
guy.
Miller.
Although,
Okay,
speaking
but
of,
people also hate
as
him.
just like a last question, is there physically any way to bring Deadpool in
No.
now that they own him again?
Absolutely not. I think
hope not.
I've seen a reputable leak recently that said that they're not planning to.
That makes sense.
I hate Deadpool.
If they had come up with a way to do it, I would be curious to see if he cameos in something.
I
But
think-
like,
They'd probably do like an episode in something. I would think.
I actually wanted to see it the other way. If they do a Deadpool 3, I want to see them bring in Marvel characters.
that'd be fun.
Yeah,
see that.
because you change it. It's just a different mode of storytelling,
Yeah.
right? So
Actually,
it might not
Is
work
Deadpool
super
Marvel?
well.
He is
Yeah.
Marvel.
Well, he's
He's an X-Men.
Fox.
Well,
Yeah, he's
yeah,
tech-
sorry.
he's tech-
Movie-wise, Fox owns him, but Disney bought Fox, so they now
Okay.
have him
Right,
again.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that pretty much the only other character that I kind of wanted to see eventually done right was Ghost Rider, but I can't think of any way to fit him into
Well, see,
the
Ghost
current
Rider's already
universe.
currently in the MCU.
Well, and they went and stuck him into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so I guess...
And they're already on their second Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Are they?
Because there's multiple Ghost Riders in the comics.
Yeah, alright, so he's gone, pretty much, then.
I hope
think
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't become, like, important because we'll have to sit through the first 3 seasons
I
for it to get good.
hated everything I've ever seen
So-
of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I'm going to force myself through it. Just if only for Coulson. I really like Phil Coulson.
I don't think he carries it.
I
Or else we
haven't.
would have heard about it.
Well, that's just it. Is I've heard lots of great things
What
about
is
it,
the
but I
weird
don't.
thing?
I haven't
It's
heard it.
still running.
I haven't heard it from people I trust. So
Yeah.
Right, the people I know who like it are not nerds, so they can't. It's like for mainstream audiences, man. And I don't know. I don't
We did
really
see
know
a
where to
weird
go with
thing
that.
online that said, like, specifically season 4 was really good or something, but I don't know how
It
much
was
credit
listed
that
as
has
better
to it.
than Thor Ragnarok as the 3rd best Marvel.
Which
What?
can't be right.
There's no
So,
way.
I
It
think
went
one thing.
Endgame,
No
Infinity
way.
War, season
don't
4
believe
of
it.
S.H.I.E.L.D.,
I've
Thor
also seen.
Ragnarok.
I've seen some really terrible lists online. Like I think the Polygon article listed of the 22 Marvel movies, they listed Infinity War as like the 19th or something.
What?
I know. Like
This wasn't like a. I don't think it wasn't like a BuzzFeed kind
Yeah.
of thing. I think it was accumulated from the
poll,
subreddit,
right?
from like Marvel Studios subreddit or something like
who
that.
knows?
Yeah.
They're actually really big on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. though, so I don't.
Oh, okay, interesting.
But so one thing I think that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is interesting with they dive into Hydra real deep,
Oh, okay.
which nobody else gets a chance to.
Yeah.
I was never super interested in Hydra as villains, though.
Yeah, I think
It's
it's
just
super
part of-
weird
Actually,
Hitler
still
analog.
don't know what it is. So.
It's the Nazi scientists.
Secret Nazis.
Oh right, yeah. Okay.
It's like Spectre from it's
Yeah.
in James Bond. It's just literally like the Cold War Nazi science.
Yeah.
Like Hydra created Captain America on accident is kind of the deal, right?
Yeah.
I will say though, getting
That's a big accident.
getting the Captain America Hail Hydra moment in Endgame.
I know.
That was nice.
I love that.
So I'm so thrilled with that. Anyway,
Well, yeah, I think that pretty much draws it to a close unless there's any final thoughts on just, like, random things.
No,
I
I
just
mean it
want-
was pretty much all over the place, but like in a good way. Like, what do you
Yeah.
want to see from Marvel? A series of things, and I hate Batman.
Yeah.
I didn't say one idea.
Oh
What's
yeah,
that?
what is it?
Captain Marvel as Doctor Who Space Adventures.
I would watch
Like Captain Marvel flies to a different planet every
Yeah.
day. Captain Marvel meets a
Okay.
weird alien race. Captain
I'd be okay
Marvel
with that.
fixes the race.
I actually thought something similar about
whatever.
Guardians of the Galaxy almost.
Right.
Like, they would work well episodically, I feel like a Firefly kind of thing.
Yeah,
I can see that. Also, actually, I think the specific James Gunn like writing style of Guardians would be a lot less grating in hour-long formats.
I think you're
Yes,
right.
I
Yeah,
think so.
probably.
I don't know if the cast is too big to get in on.
Oh, I'm
a
sure it is.
show.
I mean, well, for a Disney Plus though, again,
That's true.
We're starting
They're
off.
spending
We're not
Disney money
talking
on
about. We're talking about 8-hour movies now.
That's a good point. It's
They
not.
could
We're not
kill
like,
Gamora.
It's a whole new ball game in terms of like a human age of storytelling.
True.
Yeah.
I guess we just don't know what we're gonna. Because it weren't even murmurs of like a Hulk show, which would be Mark Ruffalo, which is.
I didn't hear that, but maybe. I mean,
Well,
who knows?
This is
yeah.
exciting.
Well, yeah, I'm excited to see whatever happens.
Okay.
I'm
Right.
really hyped for the next Spider-Man movie,
I'm
obviously.
curious.
And yeah, at some point I want to just have a whole podcast where we just like. I mean, it'll just be me and Ian. We'll just talk about all the Spider-Man villains. That's really just all I want to do.
I will let you guys have that
The Sinister
podcast.
Six while everyone else leaves the room.
As long as Rachel and I get our own podcast, I'm
That's fair.
fine.
Yeah,
what
we're
we'll
find
going to
something
talk about
great.
something.
Whatever you guys want to do, we
Yeah.
can split off into like individual pairs for a couple episodes if we
The
want
underlying religious importance of all the Marvel movies.
Okay, I'll do it. Yeah.
Which one is
Can work
which,
with that.
which superhero is closest to Jesus?
Daredevil.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so not
No,
that one.
I don't think
He's Catholic.
it doesn't. He's not. But he's not Jesus. He's
He's
clearly
the only
like
one.
a.
He's the only one who believes in God.
to. So we have a whole list of topics that we're currently working off of, but any more suggestions would be greatly appreciated. So if
Sure.
you're watching on YouTube, or even if you're not, head on over to YouTube. This is gonna be the easiest way for us to keep track of comments. If you go to this episode on YouTube and can just leave your suggestions on anything else you would like us to talk about, usually kind of broader topics or individual
Right.
movies, just whatever you think of might spark ideas.
I want to point out this. Technically, this is a writing podcast.
Right,
And
yeah,
technically, superheroes are not required. But
Right, yeah.
It's not technically writing podcasts because you guys are the only writers.
What we
don't
talk
think
about.
that's true. I think
It's two writers on a
writing.
podcast, and Rachel and I talk about things that we think are important.
I think y'all are important to our writing process.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay, yeah.
I
that's
mean,
a
you
good point.
understand characters like super well.
Yeah.
And
I
I don't
think
have like
Rachel
a
does,
specific
too.
category for Rachel, but you just have randomly amazing insights on just
My brother
things, like-
specifically
Yeah.
mentioned that, like every like he was talking about the villain podcast, and he was like, "You guys would talk about like such good things, you'd be going back and forth," and then Rachel would just chime in with like this amazing thing, and it would just blow my mind suddenly.
Oh,
and
that's
I was
so
like,
nice.
"That's so true."
Thank you. I'm really analytical.
Yeah.
And I look for larger patterns.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, if you have anything, just really anything you want us to talk about, please feel free to leave a suggestion. And we should be back in another couple weeks with another episode. So
Yee.
subscribe for updates and stuff, and we'll see you next time. Bye.